everybody. Emily and I are so excited to be joining you today. Thank you again for having us. As Sally said, I am Lisa DeSantis, Program Manager for the Food Baskets Kokua Harvest Program. And Emily is the volunteer founder and manager for Honolii Produce Share. We were invited to talk about Gleaning, our two programs, and the impact Gleaning has on our island. The image you're looking at is a famous painting called The Gleaners, and it was painted in 1857, depicting, of course, three gleaners. They're collecting wheat after a harvest. So for those unfamiliar with the term, we thought we should maybe start here as to what gleaning is. So gleaning is the gathering of leftover grain or other produce after a harvest. Oftentimes you'll hear it used interchangeably with food rescue, which is the practice of collecting edible food that would otherwise go to waste from places such as restaurants and grocery stores, and then distributing it to local emergency food programs. We've come a long way since this painting was completed all the way back in 1857, but I wanted to just give you an idea of like how long gleaning has been around. It's been way before that too, but this is just like a really nice and really famous painting that we wanted to share with you all. Yeah, and gleaning is no longer, gleaning and food rescue are no longer really limited to the slim pickings of the post-harvest collection that you see in this painting. I'll move on and you'll sort of get an idea of that in a minute. So Kokua Harvest, like I said, is a program of the Food Basket. The Food Basket, the County of Hawaii, and I started Kokua Harvest in 2019, hoping that through the act of working together to collect and share fresh produce, Kokua Harvest would connect and nourish our island, build stronger community relationships, and foster a deeper appreciation for the food and resources our Aina provides for us. We do that by being invited onto farms and private residences to harvest their extra produce. And we distribute it, like Sally said, through the Food Baskets programs and other distribution partners to get this fresh local produce to those who need it. Now you'll see some photos. We thought it was a good idea because, as we know, we collectively import 80 to 90% of the food we eat here. By harvesting what's already here and making it available to residents, we increase our local food security and contribute to local food sovereignty while participating in our local food system. I'm going to say local a lot. While participating in our local food system in a culturally relevant and familiar way. These photos depict some of our amazing volunteers harvesting items like starfruit and lychee. Sorry, just stepped on my bun. Ulu and calamansi, avocados, mamaki. This is just a couple of items that Kokua Harvest has gleaned. So gleaning and food rescue for us come with a couple of points of concern. Couldn't think of a better way to phrase it, but just a couple of challenges that come up and things that we keep in mind. This is not a complete list, but just sort of highlights a couple of the things that we think about as we go through the program. So the first one is finding the balance between like harvests and volunteers. If I have harvests but no volunteers, and if I have volunteers but no harvests. So just like keeping that balance between getting everybody involved, keeping everybody involved while not overwhelming anybody, and while always hopefully having opportunities for people to participate in whatever way they're comfortable and able to participate. The second one is making sure, like I sort of alluded to, making sure that I'm not overburdening any of my volunteers or my distribution sites, because I'm super aware that like when we harvest 900 pounds of citrus, that goes to somebody, and then that's somebody else's job. It becomes somebody else's job to handle, right? So I really try to keep that in mind when I bring to distribution sites, like how much can you distribute? Because we also, like, I don't want to burden anybody. I don't want, to feel like I'm doing a good thing and then to have it become a bummer for somebody else. We also, of course, don't want what we harvested to go to waste, right? We want to make sure that it's getting used, that what's getting harvested is getting used. And then the last point I'll mention is a little bit selfish, but like I said before, like we don't want to see the produce we harvest. We don't see the produce we harvest get used. We're trusting that it gets used, and oftentimes because we're delivering to distribution sites, we don't often even get to see it taken home by the people who are going to use it. Which brings me to my next slide. And on the previous slide was just photos of harvest. And then this slide, you're looking at a couple of value-added product ideas that we have for the program. So on the right, there's mamaki processing. We used to donate to Hui Malama, who used to dry it and bag it and give it to their clients. And then on the left was a test in my house for dried star fruit, which came out like candy. They were so yummy. So, and I know I'm moving really fast because we have a short amount of time and I want Emily to share. So I'm just going to talk about the future for a second. So we're looking forward to growing our program, our collective program, by increasing our harvest and volunteer capacities through offering paid harvest lead positions, fingers crossed, and creating a value-added products line. I really, really believe that this is a community effort. I mean, not even believe, like it's a fact. Without our crop donors, without our volunteers, without our distribution sites, nothing we do would be possible. It's all dependent on those three sort of pillars of how we operate. So I do, especially because this is being recorded, I do want to make a very quick but very public thank you to everybody who make this program possible. Together, we've harvested and distributed over 17,000 pounds of produce, local Hawaii-grown produce, since 2019, and that's just like, it's just like blowing my mind. Really, it could not have been done without the people who, trust us to come onto their property and to harvest what they're offering and to, be in their homes. Not necessarily like in the structure, but just like on their property and, hanging out with their dog. And it's just like, I'm speechless, which is not a good thing for a presentation, but it just throws me over the moon every time. So I want to pass it to Emily because she's doing awesome stuff too, and I want to get to it. This is my contact information. Emily and I saved some time for Q&A at the end, so if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat, and we will get to them. So now I want to pass it to Emily.
Thanks, Lisa. That was awesome. I actually want to add to your gleaning history because I found some stuff that I thought was really interesting. I'm just going to read it here. It says, gleaning has been an important form of social welfare for well over 2,000 years. The Old Testament of the Bible commanded Hebrew farmers to leave a portion of their crops unharvested and allow poor neighbors and strangers to come onto their land to pick what was left for themselves and their families. In England and France, the government actually protected the rights of rural poor to glean leftover crops from nearby farms. Picking leftover crops for the local community was an essential part of farm life and the harvest process for hundreds of years, until new private property laws and farming technology began to limit gleaners. So I thought that was really fascinating. So kalo, ulu, mai'a, uala, ohia'i, olena, avocado, orange, tangerine, grapefruit, lemon, limes. These are some of the most common produce donations that are brought to the Honoli'i produce share. When I was a little girl, my dad always had half a papaya with half a lime squeezed on top for breakfast every single day. That lime came from a lime tree in our yard that was super abundant. Next to that lime tree was a lemon tree. Next to that lemon tree were papaya, were guava, were some banana, and of course the super abundant star fruit. It was that abundance that we had, although we're super privileged to have that, is not that unusual here on Big Island. You know, and I pretty rarely saw my parents bring that fruit to work. You know, they did occasionally, but it was kind of rare, you know. So as an adult, I reminisced on this memory. And I had always been a nature lover, and I'm definitely quite the environmentalist, and really wanted to be involved with my community and giving back. So it took me actually many years, but I threw ideas back and forth, and I finally one day settled on the concept of food waste reduction in thinking of this memory. So the idea that I settled on was to have a place where people could bring their surplus backyard produce and share it with others. I wanted to do it at Honolulu. I'm a surfer, and I'm there very often, and that's my closest community. So I ran the idea by Uncle Keith Nels, also known as Uncle Skibbs or Bretta Skibbs. He runs the Honolulu Paka and has been a huge mentor and role model to so many keiki o ka'aina. And he gave me the thumbs up. Not only did he give me the thumbs up, but he helped me tremendously and still does to this day. So with the help of Uncle Skibbs and many others, the Honolulu Produce Share began. That's now been almost 2 years ago. So every single Sunday we've shown up at Honolulu, and we've only missed one Sunday, and that was a hurricane. So we're pretty committed. I'm really proud of that. So the produce share is, you can put the next slide if you don't mind, or do I do that? Okay. Those are my kids. The produce share is every Sunday morning from 8 till noon, or you know, until it's finished. We set up the table and signs, and people bring their surplus donations, and then others take small handfuls for free home with them. Then we break it down and we do it all again the next week. Because Honolulu is our main or / only surf spot now on the Hilo side, it's for the most part visited by regulars that come again and again, which really helps us in getting people to catch on to the project and to participate in the project. There are so many benefits to this project. Among them are the connections, the community connections that people make. You know, they connect in a different way. The whole food sovereignty aspect is huge. And then just basic stuff like people saving money on groceries. Of course, there's the reduction of our island's carbon footprint by reducing the demand for imported food. However small, it has an impact. One of my favorite benefits is that the food share inspires people to try something new. So for example, you know, someone might not, if someone sees an ulu on the table, they might not have purchased that at the store because they maybe aren't familiar with it. But if they see it on the table and they can take it for free, they might take it home and try it out. And then they might realize they really like it. And next thing you know, they go to the store and they buy the ulu from that local farmer, and they're eating this super healthy local food now. One of the benefits that you all might really appreciate is that studies show that giving to your community actually boosts your happiness, it boosts your health, and it boosts your sense of well-being. And that's proven with many, many studies. In the future, I'd like the Honolulu Produce Share to become a permanent site, and for it to expand to other popular local beaches. Eventually, I would love it to be all around the island, and why not all the islands, and why not, you know, spread throughout the world. Let's dream big, you know. And then I guess my biggest goal is I would love for there to be some sort of cultural shift, just kind of like how we had a culture shift with recycling, you know, before no one used to recycle and then people started to do it and then now it's like totally normal, you know, kind of have some sort of cultural shift where not to shame people for having, you know, for leaving their food in their yard and straight into the soil, because there's nothing wrong with that, but sort of have people gain some sort of feeling of like kuleana towards harvesting what they have and sharing that before it rots and, you know, turns into our soil. Thank you so much for having us. And Lisa and I really want to ask for your folks' feedback, any kind of advice to scale up or to improve, or any kinds of networking or connections that you guys might, you know, have suggestions. We're super, super open to.